Rebecca Bush. I'm so excited to be joined today by my dear friend, Vanessa Velez-Panzella. She is with Sovereign Love. We're going to discuss psychedelics, healing, trauma healing, enhancing one's life through intentional living, and all things love and heart-centered. So I'll just go ahead now and bring on Vanessa, who is not only a good friend, but also helped officiate at John and I's wedding. She's just an amazing human being. She's also going to be a speaker at the Exit and Build Health Summit, which is actually happening in about a month, less than a month, actually. Oh my gosh, like 3 weeks away. So you can sign up for that for free. I'll drop the link in the description. We're going to have 5 days of incredible presentations. We're so excited that Vanessa and her husband, Danny, will be joining us. But today we have Vanessa on the show. Without further ado, Vanessa, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about your podcast. It's been really great to watch you bring this into creation, and I'm honored to be here as a guest.
Yay! Yeah, I'm excited to have you. Okay, so I am still new at all this. So whenever I'm pressing the button to try to get both of us, it's just not wanting to cooperate here. So let me keep finagling.
Oh
But
no.
while I try to figure that out, if you could go ahead and just introduce yourself to our crowd and let them know a little bit about your journey into kind of psychedelic and healing, relationship coaching, and everything else that comes with that.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh my God, where does my journey even begin? I started on this path to healing. I feel like it's been so many years. My partner, Danny, and I were in a pretty toxic relationship. I feel like we both were previously married and separated, and here we were entering this new relationship. He has a son from his first marriage, so there was the parenting aspect of the relationship, and of course, every person carries their own childhood traumas and stories and belief systems. So we had a really hard time. I tend to tell people that it's like we entered this relationship and did everything that you're supposed to do wrong, like everything that you're not supposed to do. That's what we did right off the bat. We had poor communication skills. We did not know anything about nonviolent communication. We were drinking heavily. We were lying to each other, hiding things from each other. It was really, really toxic. And it got to a point we went to couples therapy, we went to individual therapy. And at one point, our therapist was like, "You both need to go on antidepressants. This is a disaster." Like, what? I don't think he even knew what to do with us at that point. And we were just no, there was no way we were going to go on antidepressants. Danny had been on antidepressants before, and he did not enjoy the experience. And I am very much against pharmaceuticals for many different reasons. So we just decided to push through it on our own. And somebody recommended working with MDMA as couples therapy. And that was kind of our introduction into psychedelics. We started taking MDMA once every 2 or 3 months in our bedroom, just the two of us sitting down. And we started talking through a lot of our issues. We started being extremely vulnerable with each other, which was like, who knew that that was the
Yeah.
key to everything, was just to be vulnerable. So we just started talking openly with each other, and that really gave us some insight into what we were each feeling. I mean, even for ourselves, just on an individual level, being able to express myself was like really transformative. And eventually we came into contact with an old friend of Danny's, Carla, and she had just returned from a trip to Peru where she sat with Mother Ayahuasca. And I don't know, just like reading Carla's book, she had published a copy of her journal and she gave us a copy. So I read it and I was like, that's it. We're going to Peru. We're doing ayahuasca. I was like, I don't know. This seems like the thing that we need to do. And that really jump started our like deep, deep journey into healing and psychedelics and plant medicines. So that's the
Yeah.
elevator pitch. You
And
did
it
it.
kind of takes like, "Hey, I did it. We're both over here." It kind of takes that like just opening up and trying something new. It's like you did the traditional, route of therapy and trying to talk through things. And I feel like there's such a stigma associated with utilizing plant medicine, but like even something as simple as starting with like, I love that you guys do your morning intention setting and drinking cacao to like open up the heart and like really get the blood flowing. Like, where would you recommend that if people are like really kind of this is a whole new world for them, or they're afraid to try something like this? Like, what do you think it primarily facilitates? Like, what is it that somebody could start more immediately just to kind of be in a space where they would even give this a try? Like, what would be your recommendation for someone who's never even heard of this before?
I totally get it. It can be an intimidating world. Like you said, cacao, ceremonial grade cacao, which is pure 100% cacao, is a really great starting place that does have some physical effects. Like it does have that heart opening feeling, and what it does is it allows the blood to circulate smoother through your veins. It pumps you full of magnesium and all sorts of good stuff. There's lots of vitamins and minerals in it, but it also helps create that open heart feeling. We've had a lot of experiences. Like you said, we start our mornings drinking cacao. Some days we're more consistent than others, but we try to set the intention to have that 15-20 minutes with each other first thing in the morning, drink our cacao, and set intentions for the day. Sometimes it just helps to reset things, right? If we had a hectic day the day before, didn't have enough time to connect, this morning ritual allows us to reconnect. And even if that's like, I've done that on my own on days when Danny has to leave for work really early, I'll just sit with my cacao, um, pause everything and really be intentional, set intentions with my drink. And honestly, even if people don't want to do plant medicine, I think that's a really great ritual to have regardless. You could do that with your green smoothie, with your coffee, with your tea, whatever you drink first thing in the morning. It's a really good practice to create that intentional space for yourself. But cacao is a really great starting point because you do feel some of those effects, those physical effects. You can also microdose. People have been microdosing mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms. You can microdose San Pedro Huachuma. There are different things that you can microdose where technically a microdose is subperceptual. So you don't feel anything physically, but the medicine does work behind the scenes and it creates a lot of these medicines have they're good for depression and anxiety, so they help create that calming feeling without feeling like you're high or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think like on social media, you see this side of people's lives that's like, oh, here's all my happy moments. Here I am traveling. Here I am working out and like, all the positive things. But like everyone has conflict, everyone has struggle. All of us go through things that maybe we wouldn't post online and that we're not proud of, And so I feel like, especially when it comes to being in a relationship and you're a couple, like it's hard enough to stay balanced as an individual, but then to have that dynamic with your romantic partner and thus even like your family members, like it's all just like a ripple effect. So let me do this. I'm going to screen share Sovereign Love, and I want you to share a little bit about your couples coaching. And what do you think, like, first and foremost, if people are having conflict in their relationship, first of all, just accepting that and like realizing where you're at, like, what would you say are the next steps? Like here, you're, talking about achieving spiritual sovereignty and to bring centered, balanced energy to their relationships. Like, what are some of the things that you feel people can immediately, like, go to your website? I'm going to put this on the comments right now and take away from to if one thing could change about, enhancing their relationship, understanding one another's needs, like without plant medicine. And then we'll get into how that can aid in that process. Like, what would you have to say for that?
Yeah, I think that's mainly the most important thing is being as intentional and as vulnerable as possible. One tip that we recommend to couples that we work with is to actually sit down and set an intention for the relationship. Tell each other, this is what I'm hoping our relationship will look like. This is what I want to get out of the relationship, what I want to bring to the relationship. And it sort of creates this separate entity. I'm pretty sure a while back, Rebecca, Danny and I recommended this book to you, How to Lead a Badass Business from the Heart.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do remember. And I absolutely loved it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and so one of the things that she recommends is setting an intention for your business, right? Kind of calling in the spirit of your business. And I think we can do that with relationships as well. What is the spirit of our relationship? What is the entity of our relationship, the intention? And when we do that, then it's easier as a couple to work towards that intention, because we can get really caught up as a couple in sometimes arguing with each other or feeling like we're on different wavelengths. So when there's an intention, we can come back to that same intention, and we can start looking at the different things in the relationship and if they align with the intention of the relationship or not. And so that way you're looking more as, sometimes it doesn't feel as personal. You don't have to get as defensive because you're both working towards a similar goal, and a similar purpose.
And so when we think of like plant medicine, how, in your opinion, do you feel that utilizing plant medicine can help heal or to help be compassionate or like understand not only yourself and your own needs, but like what can that do for someone? And I know there's a lot of different like there's a lot of complexities here and a lot of different aspects, but like for instance, for the health summit, you're, speaking primarily about psychedelics, right? And it's like, what can that do to aid you in the process? Because it's not the medicine itself that heals you. You heal you, but what does that afford you the opportunity to like experience through a different lens? Like maybe you could use a few examples. Like for instance, you mentioned ayahuasca. Like what are these different plant medicines and how can they aid in that journey of healing?
Yeah, I think what happens is that we go through life carrying all sorts of childhood traumas and traumas from lowercase t to capital T, they're different levels of trauma. But we're carrying all of these things with ourselves and then bringing them into a relationship, and it gets really intense. I feel like a lot of us carry some level of PTSD from previous relationships, whether they be romantic relationships or even relationships with our parents. A lot of it does come down to the father wound or the mother wound, and so these medicines, a lot of these plant medicines, are extremely helpful with PTSD, with depression. So when we work with these medicines, they kind of help turn the volume down on the ego. They help bring down some of those feelings of stress and anxiety, where we get to be in a calmer place and more vulnerable place to look at things from a different perspective. So for me, for example, ayahuasca was truly life changing because it allowed me to look at my past experiences from a wider perspective, where I wasn't any longer looking at these things like I was a victim of all of these things. I suffered all of these things. Now I get to look at those things and say, wow, those things really were instrumental in getting me to where I am now. If I hadn't experienced that, I wouldn't be here. And also kind of observing the ways in which I was reacting to current events based on the past. And I think when you're able to separate yourself from your past, it's easier to look at an argument that you're having with your partner and be in that present argument and not carry the baggage from all the previous arguments you've had in the past.
Yeah, definitely. Because like one thing might happen, but because you have like this accumulation of other like things that were triggering you or upsetting you, it's like instead of dealing with it in a responsible way, that one thing that recently, might have upset you, you've got all this baggage behind you you're carrying around, and then it's like boom, big explosion. And I want to share this is a video from an interview you and Danny did. Let me see if I can figure this out. I want to share this clip because this kind of speaks to y'all's experience going through, like trying therapy and trying traditional methods, and then the immediate shift that you both experienced in a heart centered approach with the use and a very, responsible way of utilizing, I believe you said it was MDMA in the interview, but let's see if I can get this to play. Dun, 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 dun. Hold on a second. Oh, John's coming in because he's my save the day. Yes.
Ready? Brighten up your day.
Oh, okay. Fancy, fancy. Okay, so here's the clip. And now let's go ahead and play. So is it playing? Is the audio working?
It's not playing. There it is. Is that where you wanted to start it?
I think so. Is it playing?
I'll go check for you.
There's no sound, yeah.
Beckenstein. Here we go.
Oh, on mute.
What would you do
on
without me?
antidepressants.
And then a friend suggested they try MDMA, a psychedelic drug more commonly known as ecstasy or Molly.
So when your friend suggested you should try MDMA or, magic mushrooms, you must have been shocked.
Yeah, for me it was I was definitely scared.
In Western medicine, what we're doing is we're treating a symptom. You have a headache, I give you a pill, it treats the headache. With psychedelics, what we can get more curious about is what's causing that headache.
Rebecca Kronman is a therapist in Brooklyn and the founder of Plant Parenthood, a community and online resource for parents interested in psychedelic therapy. It may not be on the fringe for long. There are nearly 200 clinical trials that are studying the therapeutic potential of psychedelics.
My patients have experienced anything from decrease in anxiety, decrease in symptoms of depression, ability to love themselves and care for themselves better.
Not wanting to take prescription pills for depression, these two people, once vehemently anti-drug, decided to give psychedelics a try.
What was it like the first time?
It was amazing. It was life-changing.
A flow of relaxation and happiness and love.
A mushroom trip is like years of therapy packaged into one night.
LSD, MDMA, and psilocybin are all classified as Schedule I drugs, which according to the DEA means they are not currently accepted for medical treatment in the U.S. Having these drugs could land you in jail. Kronman cautions her patients there are risks.
Where are they getting their substances from? Are they sure that that is what the substance is? And how can they be sure?
That kind of gives people a little lowdown there on what they could experience or things to take into consideration. But I meant to pull up the clip because you guys were on the Today Show also, and that one kind of got more into your story, like as a stepmom and like going through that journey and like being able to have that strong bond with you and Danny, your partner, so that then you could even be a better, role model, or not role model, but have a deeper and strengthened relationship with your stepson. Like, in what ways do you feel most families are kind of torn apart and they're just incapable of like connecting with one another and understanding each other's needs? Like, what do you feel is the biggest benefit for even like the context of a family who may have like immense trauma or cycles that they're trying to break through, even addiction cycles? Like, what do you think this has the power or potency to assist family members in overcoming those traumas and things that sometimes can pull us apart?
Yeah, I think, we carry a lot of stories that we tell ourselves, especially when you're a child. You experience things from such a different perspective, and sometimes your parents don't always explain everything to you. I think we have a tendency to think, well, oh, they're little, they don't fully understand. And what ends up happening is you grow up with this story that doesn't make sense, and as you get older, you're looking at life through that lens. So for us, kind of breaking apart all of those stories, and that's really what a lot of these psychedelic medicines do, is that they help you deconstruct these stories that you've created around situations in your life. For me, there was a lot of fear of speaking up. There was fear of being seen, of expressing myself, and it took a lot in the beginning. For example, my relationship with my stepson was a little bit complicated because I didn't know how to relate to him. I didn't know what my role was. I was suddenly a stepmom.
Yep.
I was also dealing with infertility. And so all of that was like really intense, and I didn't know what to do. And honestly, after working with psychedelics, I started feeling the option to be more vulnerable. And interestingly enough, while we were doing these interviews for the Today Show, we did an interview for Harper's Bazaar. We had these conversations with Xander with us. And in one of the conversations, I said, like, honestly, I didn't know. I felt really anxious being a stepmom. I didn't know if I was doing, if I was doing things the right way. I felt a lot of anxiety about it. And he was like, "Oh my God, you did?" He was like, "I didn't know that." And I was like,
Oh.
"God, I'm glad that you didn't notice. I was really stressed out about it." But, and then the fact that we're able to have those conversations now with him and tell him when we're struggling as parents, when we're like, honestly, I don't know, I want to make sure that we do what's best for you. And we're able to have these more heart-opening conversations with him that allow us to co-parent sometimes with, we're co-parenting. So sometimes the other household isn't on the same wavelength that we are, it doesn't have the same ideas that we do. And that's okay. We're learning to navigate that with a lot more empathy and care and patience so that we're not caught up in what's happening in the other household, and also trying to bridge the gap between the two different households.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like too, people kind of like shrug off, like don't really take seriously emotional health and spiritual health. But like I actually had a situation last week that was, that was so stressful, it was so emotional. It actually had a physical effect on me. Like I actually had, I don't even want to go into detail, but it was like incredibly, like I had a stiff neck for a few days. It was like just holding so much tension in can actually physically harm you. And so like by using these methods to work through some of those conflicts or trauma, like what do you feel like is the best way for someone who like maybe is holding on to so much? Like where should they start? Like what should they try? In your experience, like would you say MDMA and like doing it in a clinical setting or at least, with a professional to kind of, I don't know if clinical setting is the right term, but someone to kind of like monitor and guide you through it? Or like, for instance, ayahuasca, like I know a lot of people come out of that with addiction recovery and saying, hey, I don't even smoke cigarettes now, or I don't drink alcohol anymore. And that in and of itself has a huge like physical benefit of not, using some of these other addictive substances. Like, what would you say to that question?
I think that there's so many different options, right? If you're in a place where you are afraid of the effects of psychedelics, definitely microdosing is a great option. It's a smoother introduction into psychedelics because you don't have those like physical effects of feeling high, for example. But there are things like MDMA, which isn't technically psychedelic because you don't get the visuals. What MDMA does is it lowers your fear receptor. So that's why it's really popular for people that are processing PTSD. They're able to revisit past events while on MDMA and talk through them without that fear coming back up when they talk about the situation that they're trying to overcome. So, like, that's a really great, that was our first, I guess, psychedelic journey was with MDMA. And it really opened up the possibilities for us because we realized it wasn't scary. We were able to talk through a lot of things that way. Now, we went in deeper with like mushrooms and ayahuasca, which are more intense journeys. But I think the way the psychedelic movement is growing right now, it's possible to even work with microdoses, to work with smaller doses of psychedelics and integration techniques like, being able to talk through your experiences. When people do microdosing, you can do like a 30-day microdosing protocol and join a microdosing integration circle where everybody kind of shares their experiences and talks through the stuff that they're processing while on their microdosing journey. And that kind of support, I think, is shifting the way we look at mental well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, all of that.
Yeah, I love it. And I always love listening to you. And you and Danny usually do talks together, like as a couple at conferences. So I love that. It's always so cool to see y'all's dynamic. But speaking of conferences, so you and Danny are going to be at the Greater Reset in Mexico, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what are y'all going to talk about? Do you have anything in mind? What are you planning to share at that event? So that's January 17th through the 23rd. Do you guys have something that you're like feeling really passionate about touching on, or are you still kind of figuring out what to present? What do you think?
We actually started talking about it recently. I think we're going to go into the concept of I believe this conference is activation is the word, the theme. So we're mainly talking about integrating our experiences and oh no, it's manifestation. So we're talking about doing the healing work. Coming back into that centered place to be able to manifest the life you want based on your healing, right? If we don't know what we're doing, if we are not comfortable with ourselves, if we don't have if we're not fully centered and grounded, then whatever we manifest is going to be chaotic. So it's all about doing the healing work to be able to have a clearer vision for the future that we want to create.
Yeah, amen to that. I know it's like, whew, there's so much that we can talk about and research, but where the real, I think, changes can happen are just through your actions and through like identifying solutions and then incorporating that into daily life. If you had to give advice to someone who's never even heard of psychedelics or plant medicine before, and maybe they've been carrying around a lot of baggage and trauma, like what would you recommend to them, and where do you think someone should start on this journey to understand like how they could utilize plant medicine to have a happier life or healthier life?
Yeah, I think, especially now with the health summit, I feel like there's all this, I mean, on a collective level, people are going back into herbalism and holistic health and all of that good stuff. And I think plant medicine is pretty much our connection to any form of plants. We can develop a connection with tea, right? With tea leaves and really pick a plant that helps an herb that helps support you on your journey. Different herbs have their own sort of spirit also. So I think it's a matter of really choosing to be intentional with whatever your goal is. If you're looking to find more peace in your life, maybe you start with something like chamomile, which is a very calming a calming plant. If you're looking to build a little bit more resilience and strength, the rosemary is something that I like to work with. So it doesn't always have to be psychedelic. We can choose to work with plants that are more mild and also helpful. There are so many different things coming up in the herbalism world. There's like blue lotus tea, butterfly pea tea, all sorts of mugwort is really good for dreaming also. So these are all different types of herbs and teas that we can develop a connection with, develop a relationship with, and like dip our toes, right? We don't have to go full on it, or you can practice breath work, or you can practice meditation. There are so many different ways to get to that place of finding your center, finding a way to ground into your body, into what you want to create in this world. And so I don't think it's necessary to get hung up on the idea that you have to work with psychedelics, although they do help us go a lot deeper, a lot quicker. But if you're afraid, I feel like just getting in touch with somebody who works with psychedelics, you can, for example, reach out to us. We do 30-minute free consultations where we can talk about what you're going through and make recommendations based on our experience, offer support or guidance if you're thinking of doing a psychedelic journey and want support beforehand. How do I prepare for it? How do I make sure what I have is safe, how to make sure I have a safe journey. Things like that are all options. And yeah, those are all of our services. We offer tarot readings, relationship consultations. We have relationship packages where we do either 6 weeks or 12 weeks of relationship coaching. And we just kind of share all the things that have worked with for us. And we just listen to you. I think a lot of times, honestly, people are needing connection. A while back, we held a conscious couples circle where we used to meet weekly with other couples and just share what was going on in our lives at the moment. And even that was super helpful because we need community. We need to be heard. And like you said earlier, sometimes we just think, oh, I'm the only one having this issue. Why is my relationship failing? And then once you get into talking with other people and you're being vulnerable and sharing your experiences, everybody's like, oh my God, I'm having the same issue too. Great. It's not just me. That's just the way relationships are.
Yeah, it's like, okay, actually, by identifying our problems and working through them, it'll prevent us having further conflict and having this burst like a volcano and erupt into something way bigger than it needs to be.
Yes.
But yeah, I love that you guys do the relationship coaching too, because I think like when someone or a couple has like gone through that kind of evolution in their relationship and come out on the other side, like what it's like to be there, and like you can help other people through what you've learned in that process to ascend to a peaceful and pleasant relationship rather than feeling uncomfortable or like lots of conflict and drama and like the partner tearing you down instead of lifting you up. Like that's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be about love, right?
Yes.
So oh, good. I'm so glad that you're able to join. Okay, there might be some questions. Well, let me know. What do you think? So for folks who want to learn more, dive deeper, I'm seeing your Instagram looks like SovereignLove.NYC. And I've got your website up, SovereignLove.NYC. We're so excited also to have you and Danny speaking at the Exit and Build Health Summit, December 6th through 10th. So I'll definitely share that link in the comments section. And where else can people find your work? It looks like you have a free consultation option on your website. So is the website the best place for them to go?
Yeah, people can send us messages on the website too. We've connected with a lot of people there. We are in Brooklyn. Every once in a while, we offer different types of events, like the winter solstice is coming up. So we might offer a winter solstice cacao ceremony. Yeah, I mean, definitely reach out on the website or Instagram. We're also, I believe, on Telegram. We're on Facebook. We're everywhere. But on our website, you can find all of the links to all of our channels.
You do a podcast also, right? On Fridays?
We were doing them on Sundays. We
Okay.
haven't done them in a while, but we've been making a list of topic ideas and potential guests. So that'll be coming back soon.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Can't wait for your talk to go live on the Exit and Build Health Summit, which I had the pleasure of sitting in on that interview. And I know that we just totally clicked and bonded. It's going to be so wonderful. And especially for folks who are looking to, not just improve their physical health, but dive a little deeper and tap into that spiritual and emotional and how it's really a more holistic kind of approach to well-being and flourishing, not just in the sense of like working out and what you're putting into your body, but also your thoughts and your mindset and how you can utilize plant medicine to, really break through some of those trauma cycles and patterns and such. So yay. Thank you, Vanessa. You're amazing. All right. I will let you go. I'm going to do a quick outro. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Live Free with Rebecca. This has been episode 4. And we were joined by Vanessa Velez-Panzella, who will be an honored guest at the Exit and Build Health Summit, which is airing December 6th through the 10th. It's actually free to watch, so you might as well go ahead and register. I'll put the link in the comments. It's going to be 5 days of epic talks all about aligning with your health, becoming the best version of yourself, and really understanding some of the most cutting edge breakthroughs in health in general. We're also going to have another run-in with Vanessa and her husband Danny at the Greater Reset, which is the premier Liberty event that is happening in Mexico in 2024. This is January 17th through the 21st. It's a 5-day event, rather a 5-day activation. We're going to be there in person, John and I. Vanessa's going to be there in person, and we hope that you'll join us. You can learn more about the Greater Reset at thegreaterreset.org. We hope to see you all there. And thank you to Vanessa for joining us on this episode of Live Free with Rebecca. Peace and out. Y'all have a good day. Bye.